face to face. He recognized me. And I'm telling you the solemn, absolute truth, gentlemen. He'd no sooner recognized me than he attacked me, seizing me by the arm. I hadn't recognized him at first. I did when he laid hold of me. I tried to shake him off, tried to quiet him. He struggled. I don't know what he wanted to do. He began to cry out. It was a wonder he wasn't heard in the church below. And he would have been, only the organ was being played rather loudly. And in the struggle he slipped. It was just by that open doorway, and before I could do more than grasp at him, he shot through the opening and fell. It was sheer, pure accident, gentlemen. Upon my soul, I hadn't the least intention of harming him." "And after that?" asked Mitchington at the end of a brief silence. "I saw Mr. Ray," continued Flood. "Just afterwards, that was. I told him. He bade me keep silent until we saw how things went. Later he forced me to be silent. What could I do? As things were, Ray could have disclaimed me. I shouldn't have had a chance. So I held my tongue." "Now then, Collishaw," demanded Mitchington, "give us the truth about that. Whatever the other was, that was murder." Flood lifted his hand and wiped away the perspiration that had gathered on his face. "Before God, gentlemen," he answered, "I know no more, at least little more about that than you do. I'll tell you all I do know. Ray and I, of course, met now and then and talked about this. It got into our ears at last that Collishaw knew something. My own impression is that he saw what occurred between me and Mr. Brake. He was working somewhere up there. I wanted to speak to Collishaw. Ray wouldn't let me. He bade me leave it to him. A bit later, he told me he'd squared Collishaw with £50. Mitchington and the detective exchanged looks. "Ray, that's Folliot, paid Collishaw £50, did he?" asked the detective. "He told me so," replied Flood, "to hold his tongue. But I'd scarcely heard that when I heard of Collishaw's sudden death. And as to how that happened, or who brought it about, upon my soul, gentlemen, I know nothing. Whatever I may have thought, I never mentioned it to Ray, never. I daren't. You don't know what a man Ray is. I've been under his thumb most of my life, and what are you going to do with me, gentlemen?" Mitchington exchanged a word or two with the detective, and then, putting his head out of the door, beckoned to the policeman, to whom he had spoken at the end of the lane, and who now appeared in company with a fellow constable. He brought both into the cottage. "Get your tea," he said sharply to the verger. "These men will stop with you. You're not to leave this room." He gave some instructions to the two policemen in an undertone, and motioned Ransford and the others to follow him. "It strikes me," he said when they were outside in the narrow lane, "that what we've just heard is somewhere about the truth. And now we'll go on to Folliot's. There's a way to his house round here." Mrs. Folliot was out. Sackville Bonham was still where Bryce had left him, at the golf links, when the pursuers reached Folliot's. A parlour-maid directed them to the garden. A gardener volunteered the suggestion that his master might be in the old well-house and showed the way. And Folliot and Bryce saw them coming and looked at each other. "Glassdale!" exclaimed Bryce. "By heaven, man, he's told on you!" Folliot was still staring through the window. He saw Ransford and Harker following the leading figures. And suddenly he turned to Bryce. "You've no hand in this?" he demanded. "I?" exclaimed Bryce. "I never knew till just now." Folliot pointed to the door. "Go down," he said. "Let 'em in. Bid 'em come up. I'll settle with 'em. Go!" Bryce hurried down to the lower apartment. He was filled with excitement, an unusual thing for him, but in the midst of it, as he made for the outer door, it suddenly struck him that all his schemings and plottings were going for nothing. The truth was at hand, and it was not going to benefit him in the slightest degree. He was beaten. But that there was no time for philosophic reflection. Already those outside were beating at the door. He flung it open, and the foremost men started in surprise at the sight of him. But Bryce bent forward to Mitchington, anxious to play a part to the last. "He's upstairs," he whispered. "Up there. He'll bluff it out if he can, but he's just admitted to me." Mitchington thrust Bryce aside almost roughly. "We know all about that," he said. "I shall have a word or two for you later. Come on, now." The men crowded up the stairway into Folliot's snuggery, Bryce, wondering at the inspector's words and manner, following closely behind him and the detective and Glassdale, who led the way. Folliot was standing in the middle of the room, one hand behind his back, the other in his pocket. And as the leading three entered the place, he brought his concealed hand sharply round and presenting a revolver at Glassdale, fired point blank at him. But it was not Glassdale who fell. He, wary and watching, started aside as he saw Folliot's movement, and the bullet, passing between his arm and body, found its billet in Bryce, who fell with little more than a groan, shot through the heart. And as he fell, Folliot, scarcely looking at what he had done, drew his other hand from his pocket, slipped something into his mouth, and sat down in the big chair behind him. And within a moment the other men in the room were looking with horrified faces from one dead face to another. End of chapter 26.